What's up, breathing people? Welcome back. Today, I'm joined by my wife, Brittany, and we're discussing how to build a non-anxious life. So last podcast, we actually started this. It's a review of John Delony's book, Building a Non-Anxious Life. And in that, he outlines 6 choices that all of us can make to build a life free of anxiety. So we went through the first 3. I want to just kind of go over his thesis again, just so we kind of are on the same page as far as anxiety, kind of how he defines it, and then now looking at what he outlines to deal with it and be free of it. So he really looks at anxiety as fire alarms. These are the things going off in your body, in your head, in your soul that are trying to tell you that a problem exists in one area of your life. And anxiety can come up in different areas of your life. It can come up in your mind. It can come up in your soul. It can come up in your body through physical, manifestations. So it's the fire alarm. He doesn't really define it as a diagnosis. He doesn't define it as something that you can be labeled with. And we'll kind of get into that, I think, with the next 3 that we're going to go over. But he really is saying, hey, guys, instead of just labeling ourselves as people with anxiety, or I struggle with anxiety, or I've been told by my doctor that I have anxiety, face that anxiety head on and do things, make daily choices that you can actually work through that anxiety and become free from it. So I think it's just such a powerful concept, looking at it as fire alarms instead of a diagnosis. And what that does, it allows us to take it out of the hands of our doctors and put it back in our command, so that we can actually do something about it. I love doctors. I think there's a place for them. But when there's something like this, that is something that's built into every single person, anxiety. We all deal with it, every single person, not just the people labeled as a person with anxiety. We all deal with it. So we all have to have tools in place on how to deal with it, on how to overcome it, on how to conquer it. And that's what this book is trying to outline. So just to go over the first 3 again, we have choosing reality. That's the first choice. I gave the example of my last job. It was a job that I hated. It was a job that was very stressful, that brought a lot of anxiety into my life. If I was to look at it from a realistic framework, meaning I wasn't just in my head stewing on all the negativity and stewing on all of the things I did not like about it, but actually listed what I did on a daily basis, what the job entailed, who I got to work with, what the responsibilities were, kind of looking at the whole picture of that job, I would have come away with a picture that was far different than the one I had created in my mind. So the real life is so different from the thing that we create in our minds. So he talks about writing out the reality of different situations in our lives, our relationships, our emotions, our workplace, all of these types of things to get a framework of reality for each of those. So that's the first one. Live in reality, not in your mind. The next one is choose connection, making sure that weekly, daily, we are choosing to connect with people. We are choosing to have friendships. We are choosing to find community wherever that is. Like I said, church, clubs, the gym, a class, go back to school. Whatever you need to do to make connections, do that thing. It's so important. Loneliness leads to anxiety. And a lot of times we're lonely by choice. We decide to stay on TikTok. We decide to stay on social media. We decide to stay in forums, which are great. They're great platforms. They do great things. They give great information, but you can't actually have meaningful connections through these platforms. You have to be face-to-face with somebody. So choose connection. And then the last one that we went over in the last podcast was choosing health. That means choosing health in your physical life. Are you working out? Are you exercising? The amount of anxiety that can be released, the amount of anxiety that can be overcome through a simple workout is incredible. So making sure that we're consistently working out, making sure that we're consistently eating right, that's the next thing, our diet. What are we putting into our bodies that is either attributing to or aiding in the release of our anxiety? Because our bodies are releasing chemicals. Our bodies are constantly filtering and trying to decide what to do with the things we're putting in it.
Yeah.
And if we could just put good things in it that help our bodies, that attribute to positive outcomes in our internal health, we will have better mental health and we will have less anxiety. Mm-hmm. So diet is super important. And then we ended on your favorite thing, sleep. Yes. So sleep is super important, making sure that it's consistent, making sure that you are doing things during the day that will affect your sleep at night, making sure you're turning off the phone at a specific time and reading a book. There are so many hacks out there, but just know overall, the better your sleep is, the less anxious you'll be that day and the next. Mm-hmm. So that's super important. So those are the 3 that we've gone over so far. We're going to get into the next 3 right now. So number 5 or number 4, I can't count. It says 5 on here.
Yeah.
Is choosing mindfulness.
Okay.
So that's the next choice after you really focus on your health, is choosing mindfulness. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into all of the things that he talks about in this chapter, mostly because I'm kind of new to a lot of those concepts, so I don't want to butcher them or misconstrue them. I'll kind of talk about it from the knowledge that I have currently and then kind of try and outline some of the points that he's making. But what I really gained from this chapter was being present. We talk about this a lot in relationships, actually being with someone, and that's a lot harder than we make it. Or that's a lot harder said than done, I should say. And being present, meaning like you're not just in the physical space, but like your mind and your soul are there with the other person, is something that you have to practice. It's something that you will know that you're doing when it's actually happening. Yeah. Like there's a difference when you're with your best friend and you guys are just locked in to whatever you're talking about, whatever the topic is that interests you, or how much you love that person. You're locked in. Yeah. You're present with that person, not just physically. It's emotional. Right. It's a soul connection. That is what the practice of mindfulness, which is something that you can do yourself to practice for when you're doing it in connection with other people, or just navigating your life in general. I'm going to choose to not exist in my past, maybe the shame of that, maybe the hurt of that, the pain of that. And I'm not going to exist in my future, the unknown of that, the scariness of that. Yeah. But I'm going to exist where I'm at right now. And so that's the next thing that he outlines, that there's a lot of benefits to mindfulness practices in mental well-being. Yeah.
I see how that can be helpful. Like I already have like ideas of how that would make you not anxious, but how is he saying that will make you not anxious?
Basically, removing yourself from those 2 extremes that I talked about. Okay. Removing yourself from existing in the past and future and being present kind of releases those things to allow you to be free in the time and space that you're in.
So you're not reacting in the present because of something in the past, and you're not responding or reacting in the present because of a fear that you have about the future. Right. It kind of goes back to the first one about choosing reality. Yep. If you haven't chosen reality yet, it's very hard to be present. Yeah, I can see that. From my own life, times I've been anxious, you're just constantly thinking about all the things you're worried about, and you're often not present. And then you miss out on life. Mm-hmm. But what did you pull from that?
So I think like the major thing to understand, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've learned about stillness and silence, because it's very similar. We have a lot of terms for things that kind of overlap spiritual practices and, kind of holistic practices, and just all these different worlds sort of collide. Awareness is the main thing that I kind of gained from what he's talking about with mindfulness.
Okay.
So even some practices that I've learned over the years, there's something called NSDR, non-sleep deep rest.
Oh, I've heard you talk about that, yeah.
Yeah, it's basically this practice of taking a nap without sleeping, where they've done studies where people can actually, and sometimes you do fall asleep, but this is just a practice of you just either sitting in a chair still or laying down still, and there's this just kind of coming to awareness of every part of your body and just letting each part of your body relax.
Yes.
And so there's an awareness and a relaxation from that awareness where you're breathing regularly, you're aware of that, and then you're aware of each part of your body. And I don't know, there's something to the fact that you're bringing yourself back to knowledge of your physical form that takes you out of this kind of metaphysical angst that the world produces.
Yeah.
And just to kind of break that down, because I think we know this intuitively, that we create these worlds and these situations outside of reality, outside of, what is actually happening around us. What is actually happening to our bodies, what is actually happening to our emotions. And it's so easy to get caught up in that. It's so easy to get caught up in this fantasy world. And anytime that you can bring yourself back to knowledge of your body, I actually think exercise is another way to kind of bring yourself into knowledge of your body. Like coordination is such a needed part of exercise so you don't hurt yourself.
Right.
And so you have a whole time where you're just focused on these little details. Like, am I engaging the muscles that I'm working? Am I doing it with good form?
Yeah.
And there's something about that is just so good for you, for your mind. And in the same way, when you can have times where you are just sitting with your thoughts, it brings you back to the fact that you can think things through. Because I don't know about you, but I get in these places where I just hit a wall in my thinking, where I pride myself on being able to think a lot. But what I find is I keep coming up to certain things that I've been thinking about, and I don't know what to do in those scenarios. And so I just keep bouncing off a wall. And I keep bouncing off a wall. And it's frustrating and it's anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'm on the move or I'm distracted while I'm thinking.
That's the worst.
Right.
That makes it worse.
You're not really doing any healthy thinking. You're not really doing any productive thinking during that time because you're multitasking. And we can't multitask as humans. We have to be focused on a specific thing. And I think if we had times where we practice mindfulness, paying attention to our thoughts, it will bring clarity and it will bring new perspective and it will bring these kind of new awareness of other possibilities that exist that are there, that we can think of. We have the mental capacity to think of greater possibilities than we have thought right now, but many times we don't pay attention.
Yeah, the anxiety itself and like whatever fear it is that we have. I mean, is fear part of anxiety?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like kind of linked a little bit, I think. But when you're stuck in that fear and anxiety, it's very hard to see any other options. Mm-hmm. And so having that time to kind of take a step back and think your thoughts all the way through opens up, helps you to think, okay, this is reality. I'm feeling this way because of whatever these reasons are. And it kind of lifts you up out of it so you can kind of get like a bird's eye view and be like, okay, there's other options. You know, what I'm thinking is going to happen might not happen, you know? And so I can see how that's helpful. But for me, when I hear that, for my life, what's been helpful being mindful and slowing down is just knowing when my thoughts do start to go like haywire. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's helped me the most. I think we talked about it a little bit last time, but once you are mindful in your day-to-day, like present in the day-to-day, which is still a struggle for me sometimes, just not even anxiety, just you're thinking about something else. And it's very, I want to say distracting, but it's not helpful for just enjoying your life. Mm-hmm. But what I was saying is I'm more aware now when I have thoughts that I need to sit down and think through, because I'm like, okay, this is causing me stress right now, this thought. And so, but if you don't take the time to do that ever, and you're not used to being mindful, you're just going to run, you're going to jump on that anxiety and fear cycle again. Yeah. And yes, I guess the only way to get off of it is, to kind of slow down, stop, and think it all the way through. Like all of those steps, I can see how all those steps are helpful. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like a combined effort. Yeah. With all of these things, you almost have to be doing them all at once.
Yeah, I usually refer to cats as nature's natural speed bumps. But for the sake of this conversation, I really think mindfulness are like speed bumps. They are those times that forces your car to slow down. Mm-hmm. You can't go over those fast. You have to, even if you take one rough, like, you know, you I've taken speed bumps and I'm like, oh, I should have slowed down a little more. Yeah. You know, especially when I was in my Dodge Neon, you know, that was rough. Any speed bump. But I see the practices of mindfulness, or the practices of stillness and silence, some people call them, or the practice, you know, in the religious circles, you could call it a daily office. Mm-hmm. So these are times where they're scheduled and they're at different points in the day. You can do one morning and night. You can do one in the afternoon, kind of wherever you might see a need for a speed bump in your life. A time where you are forced to stop and slow down and pay attention. Mm-hmm. You have to pay attention when you come to a speed bump. You know, like, how big is this speed bump? Am I going to scrape the bottom of my car? You become very aware and you go slow. Right. And sometimes that's all we need in our life, is just a time where we become more aware and slow down. Yeah. And that can just kind of bring us back to center. That can kind of bring us back to reality. That can kind of bring us back to a point where we can move forward and make better decisions after. So
is that what he suggests? Is that part of the mindfulness? Is that the word that he uses? I'm sorry.
Yeah, he uses mindfulness.
Is that one of the ways he says to practice it? I'm just curious. Like taking times in your day to actually be like, just sit still and be mindful.
Some of it. So you can do it.
I'm just curious. I know that there's different ways you could do it, but I was curious to see what he was saying.
There's so many things out there on mindfulness right now that it's almost impossible to not have a way that really meets your particular preference.
That's true. My watch reminds me. I didn't even set that. Right. It's like, remember to be mindful. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Shut it off.
Shut up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's on our phones now. It's, you know, I have a Christian app called Abide that just takes you through scripture with some meditation, with some, just kind of prompts to breathe and prompts to relax. And, so there's so many different ways in which it can be something that you read and then meditate on. It can be something, where you're just still and you're just trying to, there's so many different practices. There's meditation of more of like an Eastern context where you're just trying to release everything and just kind of get to a blank spot in your thinking. I personally prefer more of I allow thoughts in, I test them. If they're not something that benefits me right now or a distraction, I just release it. Mm-hmm. And you can do that in different ways. You can do that by literally just saying to yourself, like, I'm not going to focus on this. Or you can have a mantra. You can have something, right. In a Christian context, I can have a verse or I can have, something that brings me back to what I'm trying to do right. in that time. So there's, he has some resources on mindfulness. He has some mindfulness meditations where he reads to you certain things. You kind of have to find what works for you.
I like that you're saying find what works for you because I think that is true. Yeah. Because in my journey, I've seen different resources and tried different things. And for me, I find that, certain things work better for me. Like others are awkward. I'm like, I'm not getting, it's more of a distraction than helpful. Yeah. So just being willing, being open to trying different things.
Yeah. But what I will say though, because I know there's a lot of pushback, I run a course at our church called Emotionally Healthy Discipleship. And when we get to the practice of stillness and silence, a lot of people push back. A lot of people are like, I struggle, therefore it's just not for me.
That's a good point.
Working out, you're going to struggle if you've never done it before. You're going to look stupid.
Right.
But you have to just stay with it. You have to stay with it and get better at it, be disciplined in it, and there will be growth that happens. There will be this kind of newfound ability to do the thing.
That's true.
So you just have to stay with it. I will say for me personally, I kind of go back and forth with just a full stillness and silence where I'm trying to just listen to God and I try to keep my mind free of a lot of thoughts. Mm-hmm. And then I'll do a different one sometimes that is all about thinking, where I'm removing all distractions. I am sitting in silence where I'm just focusing solely on my thoughts. And I try to find an environment that's free of distraction.
When you're focusing on your thoughts, what do you mean? Are you just letting your mind kind of go to see what is going on in your head?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think just that focused thinking through whatever is top of mind.
Yeah.
So if there's just something that's top of mind, I'm going to explore it for those times can be a lot longer. Those can be 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Where I'm allowing myself, sometimes I'll close my eyes, just to kind of really hone in on my mind and on those thoughts. And I'm trying to be productive. I'm not trying to let my mind go to the next thing that I have to do, or, all these other things. You're still trying to give up past and future.
Yeah.
To be present with whatever thought you're working through.
Yeah.
And a lot of us don't do that. You're like, what's the difference between that and just thinking? A lot.
It is different, yeah.
There's a lot different. If you're just moving throughout your day, listening to YouTube, doing this, doing that, and trying to think, you're not thinking well. Mm-hmm. You have to allow sometimes, not all the time, but some time for yourself to slow down, be undistracted, and process. Mm-hmm. Your mind is powerful. Your mind is capable of so many, coming to so many new possibilities and understandings, but you have to give space for it.
Yeah.
So
So you do that every day.
You do that every day. So like I said, I jump back and forth between these, where sometimes I just feel like I need to just be in that practice of shutting up and listening. And I don't hear God. Maybe one day I will hear God, but like in any relationship, like I desire a relationship with God. I have to listen to that person. I can't always receive and you know, or I'm sorry, I can't always speak to that person.
Yeah.
And just leave it at that. There needs to be a time where I listen. And what that does is, you know, it really reinforces the idea of presence. And going back to mindfulness, that's the goal. Doing all these practices aren't for just your mental well-being or just for you to be free of anxiety. It's for greater presence in your life where you are. I was just listening to somebody today and they were talking about nature, and they were talking about how it's one of the primary ways to hear God. And I definitely, I agree with that. I agree with that. There's such majesty in the smallest of details in creation that just shout the glory of God. And yeah, I think and most of us are unaware that it exists.
Yeah.
Because we're not present. We're not there. Watching my kids play, you know, there are so many times where like I'm on my phone and I look up and I see them playing and I just go,
yeah,
like I gotta stop this thing and watch.
Yeah.
And appreciate and remember and be present with what's happening right there.
Yeah.
It's so amazing that lives that I've created are playing.
Yeah.
Are joyful. That's incredible.
Yeah.
But it's so routine that you're just like, let me have this distraction fill me with whatever I'm actually seeking, which is presence.
Yeah.
Which is mind, you know, and that's through that practice of mindfulness.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's so many tools out there. I mean, you really just have to search.
Yeah.
You know, my workout app has mindfulness practices.
Yeah.
So you can do different meditations or, you know, different things like that. But
the more you try things too, sometimes you'll realize, oh, you can combine things. Like for me, and I think it changes in each stage of your life, because when I was younger, like my mindfulness, if we want to use that term, looked very different. Like I was single, I didn't have kids, and I had a lot of like quiet time. Like I loved that. And now that I'm a mom of 3, it just doesn't happen as much. Yeah. But I find that it's really hard to be mindful because my mind is just going to everything that needs to happen today and the things that I didn't get done yesterday. And there's so much going on. Any moms out there will know what I'm talking about. So what I did is I went out and I bought a journal. It's just like a simple lined journal. And so in the morning, like I'll get up early enough that hopefully the kids aren't up yet. And I just have some just straight quiet time. But the journal's in front of there. Like I'll write the date. And the journal's there for when that thing comes to my mind, like this thing has to be done. I'll like jot it down because I'll be like, I'm going to forget that. So I jot it down, but not to like make a list, just so that I can put it away. It's like it's written down.
I like that.
It's there. I don't have to worry about it anymore. So then I just continue. But the journal's always there for like when I can't let something go because I know that it has to get done that day or whatever it is. I just jot it down, but I'm like, okay, now it's done. I can always look back at this.
Yeah.
And it helps me.
You don't want to forget.
I don't want to forget. And so I'll try to hold it in my mind while I'm also trying to like just be still, and it doesn't work. So then after that, then I can kind of take some time to think through my thoughts and pray. And then I'll have some time to read. And then it's even there for like if I need to journal out thoughts. I don't do that every day, but sometimes there's stuff going on that I have to just write out. So then I have the journal there to do that too. And I found for me that works really well because it focuses me. I'll even write down like the name of somebody that I want to pray for if I can't, like if my mind just keeps going, I'll be like,
right.
And I write down their name and then I don't know. It just helps because I'm like, this is what I'm focusing on right now, praying for this thing or this person.
Yeah.
And I find that to be really helpful because before I was really struggling to get my mind to like focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. It's habit stacking.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the cheat codes in Atomic Habits is combine habits.
Yeah.
If they're really difficult to do separately, see if you can do them together.
Yeah.
And it's
that's
an
interesting.
easy way to kind of get two birds with one stone. I do something similar a lot of times when I'm practicing just paying attention to my thoughts, I'll do a emotions journal before that. So that way, because most of the times the thoughts that I'm going to be focusing on are something that I'm feeling.
Right.
So to live in reality, I want to actually write out how I'm feeling right now. So I'll go, what am I sad about? What am I angry about? What am I afraid of? What am I glad about? Sometimes I want to focus on good things.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can just let yourself think and be mindful of all your blessings, of all the things that you're thankful for. That's okay too. We don't always have to focus on the negative or on the problems or on the situations that are to come. We can focus on what we're grateful for, and sometimes that can also help us be mindful.
That actually is, there's a lot. We could go and talk about that, but go ahead. You keep going.
No. So I like you, I'm just saying there are times where I'll combine some type of journaling with this practice.
Yeah.
So a lot of ways to get into it. I would just say it is so key to help you slow down, not be lazy. Some people equate those two things of slowing down or even just having balance in your life as lazy. Not saying that. There are definitely times I want you to work hard.
Yeah.
All of these things that we're talking about, choosing reality, connection, and health, hard work.
Yeah.
All of them. So work hard.
Right.
But work hard towards the right things.
Yeah. You have to be disciplined to make time for mindfulness too.
Yes.
It is a discipline. It's not just I'm going to lay here and do nothing now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I think we talked that one through enough. The next one, so number 5, the choice that you make is choosing belief. And I really like that he decided to go here because I think it's so crucial. But a lot of the more scientific books, a lot of the more psychological books that deal with this issue of anxiety don't like to touch on the idea of belief because it gets you into that religious hot water. And people don't want to be labeled a certain way. They want to kind of stay unbiased and they want to stay kind of free of the religious talk. He is okay with people knowing that he's a Christian.
Okay.
He's okay with people knowing that he believes in the Judeo-Christian God.
Right.
And that belief has helped him in conquering anxiety.
Amen.
So it's really cool that he goes into this. I am not a fan of the people, and I didn't love this part of his book, that are like, hey, but you choose what you believe. The main point is believing in a higher power. Okay. I mean, if that's step 1 for you, great. I had a friend in high school that was an atheist, and it was cool. He went to Carnegie Mellon. He studied physics. And through that study, he came to an understanding that there was a God.
That's cool.
And he wouldn't say he believed in, the Christian God or whatever. He just said, I believe in God. I believe in that higher power.
Yeah.
Fantastic first step. Because I think we have to get to that understanding. I listen to all the skeptics. I listen to people all the time that don't believe in God because I appreciate their perspectives despite their unbelief. But there is something, and I see this more and more, where people are having to admit that people with a belief system, people with a religious life are happier.
Yeah.
They're more grateful. They do more charity. They, seem to have less anxiety in their lives. and now I'm talking about people that are actually practicing.
Yeah.
There's a difference there, where there are some people that attend and their lives look no different than any other Joe.
Mm-hmm.
It's people that are actually
Believing.
practicing. Actually believing in what they're learning and trying to apply it and doing the hard work. When we talk in the Christian faith about discipleship, and this is that work towards following in Jesus's footsteps. Like whatever he did, I'm going to try and implement that into my own life. That's hard, man, because he was God and I'm stupid.
Mm-hmm.
In comparison, I'm an idiot. In comparison, I'm a angry fool. You know, I'm an anxious, crazy person.
Yeah.
In comparison to Jesus. So it's not easy to try and live that life. I'm going to fail. That's the beautiful thing about Christianity, is that he knew that.
Yeah.
That's the whole point, is that he knew you would be a failure, and he came to bridge that gap between you and God so that you can have a relationship and a belief system that actually affects your life. So he talks about the role of faith and spirituality in finding peace.
Yes.
And that word is so crucial because, like you said, fear is involved in anxiety. I think there's, fear is a huge aspect of anxiety. Anxiety is that it induces that flight or fight response. And what I think these do is actually offer us a way where we're not fighting or we're not running away.
Yeah.
But we are doing the work beforehand so that we can mitigate this response.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense.
Okay. So I think peace is such a crucial thing to work towards, to try and obtain in our lives. Mindfulness is a huge way to obtain peace, by the way, just to go back to that one. Mindfulness, when I am committed to practicing stillness and silence or paying attention to my thoughts or journaling my feelings, there is a peace that comes through that practice.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to obtain peace because you just feel so anxious, mindfulness is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Just to say personally in my own life. And then after that, the things that I'm focusing on when I'm still and silent are based on my beliefs.
Yeah.
You know, I believe that through Jesus Christ, through my acceptance of who he is, who he was, what he came to do, how it affects my life, now allows me to be in relationship with God.
Yeah.
Not because of me, not because of my works, not because of anything that I could ever do, but because of what he already did, I can now have this relationship with the divine, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And that alone should be something that we focus on daily, is just the fact that I don't deserve this.
Right.
But
it's that gratitude again.
I can show up every day and he wants to hear me.
Yeah.
I was actually just meditating on that earlier today, that verse of ask and it will be given, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened. And just the fact that that's every time we go to God and ask something, he will give either answer or peace or understanding or whatever we need in that circumstance. Seek him and you will find relationship.
Yeah.
Seek him and you will find presence with him, and knock and the door will be opened.
Amen.
You know, I love the picture of the cross because it's arms wide open. And there's just that embracing nature to such a destructive thing.
Amen.
You know? Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting like a little goosebumps thinking about that. But belief is such an important thing in finding peace because honestly, if you believe in yourself,
that will cause you anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I know myself.
Yeah.
And if I had to believe in myself in order to obtain peace, God help us.
Yeah. Well,
it's not going to happen. I know myself. I'm not strong enough to lean on. I'm not strong enough to listen to. I'm not strong enough to follow. So anybody that listens to me on a podcast and takes in anything that I say, know that I'm trying to follow someone way better than me.
Right. You're not leaning on yourself.
In something way bigger than me.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to share that information with you.
Right.
There's a difference between someone that's just trying to tell you information that they've obtained from some other person, which I do. But I'm also trying to follow someone even bigger than any person that's ever existed on this planet. And that's a difference. That's hopefully tapping into something greater than our biology.
Yeah.
Greater than just the makeup of this world as it currently exists. It's something beyond. It's something above all of this. And so you can obtain some sort of higher understanding, some sort of higher being by believing in that.
Yeah, I mean, it brings me back to, I was actually thinking about this a couple days ago as well, but when I first, during a time in my life when I was very anxious, it was mostly because I was trying to be everything myself. I knew God and I loved God, but didn't realize I was depending on myself. I was trying to be like that perfect person that I felt like I should be and that I wanted to be. And it was causing me, I don't think I realized it at the time, but it was causing me huge anxiety because I knew, but I guess kept trying to do it all myself. And so what you're saying is, I know for me, was the start of my journey towards getting rid of anxiety is because I was able to kind of let go for the first time in a long time and be like, okay, it's okay. It's okay that I'm not everything. It's okay I don't have it.
Yeah.
It's okay that I can't do it on my own. That's okay. And that was such that was a turning point in my life. But then that slow journey of belief of knowing, okay, I serve a good God and he is in control and I'm going to shoot towards him and my misses are going to be okay. I just keep going in that direction. And yeah, it's a huge sense of peace that I don't know how you could get on your own.
No.
I mean, I tried. It didn't work. But
no.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things, and like I'm saying, I don't promote anything other than the Christian God. I don't promote anything other than the Judeo-Christian God. Sorry. I appreciate, like I said, I appreciate those that are exploring faith, that are exploring spirituality, and have come to an understanding that there is a higher power, that there is something that made all of this. I just don't promote another one because it would be disingenuous of me because in the word, it says that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life.
Yeah.
The early Christians called themselves the way.
Right.
We say there are many ways to God in this kind of modern culture, this modern spirituality, but it's not true.
Yeah.
I love people enough to say that, I respect your way. If you're finding a different way, I don't believe you're right.
Yeah.
Not because I don't like you, not because I don't love you, not because I don't want the best for you. It's because I want the best for you that I'm going to at least tell you that I think you should try Jesus.
Right.
Because many that do find the way.
Yeah.
They find purpose. And that's another thing that he talks about is that these systems of belief, these systems that we call religion, these systems that we call, the organized faith, provide us with purpose, and they provide us with just a direction in our lives where we now who were just kind of wandering maybe through a lot of biohacking. I've done a lot of biohacking. It's fine. It helps you momentarily while you're doing it. But you can navigate these things, and if you're honest with yourself, you're just kind of wandering looking for the next biohack. Yes. You're looking for the next fix. You're looking for the next thing that's going to make you feel like you're moving forward in your life, where a belief system is ever present in your life. It's ever unattainable in your life. And there's something adventurous about that, where in this life, you're never going to obtain the fullness of what you're actually striving for, which kind of sounds depressing because you're like, you mean I'll never find that pot of gold? No, because it's about the journey.
Yeah.
And that's the exciting part. No one really cares at the end of the book when the person gets the thing.
Yeah, it's all about the journey.
That's the most depressing part because the story's over.
Yeah.
You cared about the journey. And when you have a belief system that you're following and it's hard and you're trying really hard and you're failing and you're getting back up and you're trying again, that's where the adventure is. That's where there is actual purpose in your life. So belief is such a huge part of eliminating anxiety and building that non-anxious life. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
No, I think that's great.
All right. And then lastly, choose freedom. Choosing freedom is the last kind of, after you've done all these things, you chose reality, you chose connection, you chose health, you chose mindfulness, you chose belief. Lastly, you need to choose to live in the freedom that all of these things bring to your life.
Yeah.
If you have all of these things, freedom is available to you.
Yes.
But you have to choose it.
That's true.
I love the Chronicles of Narnia. I actually have a Narnian shield on my necklace.
Yeah.
Because I'm a nerd. But what I love most about it is, and as I read it as an adult, it's so insightful. Like C.S. Lewis was a genius. I mean, he wrote a lot of great literature outside of the fiction space that was incredible as well. It's very dense. I love Narnia because I think it's the most simplistic, best depictions of the Christian faith and the concepts of the Christian faith that have ever been written. I think he's able to boil down the concepts of the Bible, the major ones, and deliver them in a way that just pulls at your heartstrings. Yeah. Where, especially if you are already in the belief system of God is real, I believe in him, I believe in his son, Jesus, like all of that, the amount of times that I usually listen to the books now because I have to do it while I'm mowing or all adulting things.
Yeah.
I will just be bawling.
Yeah.
Or I'll just get goosebumps at certain points because I'm feeling the things so deeply.
Yeah.
I'm saying all this not just to promote the Chronicles of Narnia, but in the last book, The Last Battle, there's a group of dwarves that just kind of become disillusioned to all of the confusion that is existing around them. So they choose to not believe in Aslan, the god. They choose not to believe in Tash, the kind of enemy god. They choose to believe in themselves. And what that does, and it's very interesting how C.S. Lewis depicts this. So they get thrown into this shed that the fake Aslan, that's so much to the book. It would be hard to just kind of summarize it really quickly. But basically, the people of Narnia, the creatures were fooled by a fake Aslan.
Yeah.
So it was just a donkey that had a lion's like fur on it.
Right.
To make it look like Aslan, and it fooled all of the Narnians and,
Yeah.
Basically, the dwarves get thrown into this shed that was existing in because the bad guys in the story were basically saying, now Aslan's going to like devour whoever we throw in there.
Gotcha.
Long story short, when you get thrown into this, you are basically launched into Aslan's country, into heaven. Like you do die.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's like an entrance into heaven.
Okay.
But what's interesting about that is that the dwarves cannot see heaven around them.
Oh, wow.
They get so locked into their disillusionment about everything.
Yeah.
Their unbelief in everything that they can't even see heaven when it surrounds them.
Wow.
So like Aslan, God in this book, walks up to them and they can't even see him.
Wow.
And I think there are so many people in life living just like that, where God shows up in so many areas of your life and you are so disillusioned, you are so checked out, and you are so unbelieving, and you built up all of these things of unbelief, all of these roadblocks and walls of unbelief, that God can walk right up to you, breathe on you, and you will excuse it as the wind blowing, or you will excuse it as, something scary.
Right.
When it's just Jesus trying to talk to you or God trying to communicate with you.
Right.
And it's a little example from that book that always stuck with me.
Yeah.
Even from the first time I read it, there was just something about the dwarves that were unbelieving.
Right.
And they couldn't see heaven around them.
Right.
That I think just translates right into this choosing freedom, letting go of control and embracing uncertainty. The dwarves were embracing something. They were embracing themselves.
Yeah.
And their own ideas of who they were for and who they were against. They were for themselves only.
Right.
And there's just something about letting go and believing.
Yeah.
Letting go of the uncertainty of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And just believing that today is good enough.
Right.
That my life today, the fact that I'm living it still, the fact that I'm breathing in it still, the fact that, I ate dinner that day is beautiful.
Right.
And it just means that I'm free.
Yeah.
I'm trying to and now I want to get away from the analogy because I'll just keep going on it. But let go of control and embrace uncertainty in your life.
Yeah.
That's the key to choosing freedom. And also there's a lot of strategies for releasing the need to control outcomes. And that's really important too. I can't force things to happen the way that I desire them to.
That's interesting that you say that, because that almost takes, I feel like if I heard you say that, years ago, it would just be words to me. But as you say it now, and I've been through some life, I'm that's true, because I've seen myself in the past try to control and grip and grab and just make things work out the way I want, which also causes anxiety. But yeah, practicing now being I'm only in control of what I do. Right. And I can want what I want and I can hope what I hope, but I can't make that happen. Right. I can choose freedom to, I'm going to walk in this direction because this is the direction I want to go, but I can't make you do something. I can't make this other person, that kind of letting go, that is freeing, even though it sounds so terrifying. Right. But that is the freedom to be to live in the present, to face reality, to love people well and let them be themselves. Yeah. Yeah, that's freedom. Right. But it's very uncertain. Mm-hmm. So it's the way
it's not just releasing control of outcomes. The other part to this is that there's a process that you can trust in.
Okay, explain that.
So all of the things that we are working towards in our lives, there's a process involved in that. What this is trying to communicate is we can find freedom in just doing the things that work towards the outcomes. We can trust the process that we put in place that will move us towards whatever outcome we desire to see in our lives. And there's freedom in just existing in the process, trusting that the process will get us to our outcomes.
Interesting.
Not just releasing all control. Like, you do need to do that because existing in the process, I guess we don't know that the outcome will be achieved.
Right. So does he mean the process is the direction you're walking?
Yeah. Direction you're walking, the things that you have put in place to do towards an outcome, just trusting in that.
Yeah.
Like, what you're doing is all you can do, really.
Yeah.
You can't control that outcome and make it happen when and where and, how you exactly want it to happen.
Right.
You need to trust the process that you put in place to get you towards that outcome.
Yeah.
And there's freedom then in just trusting the process.
Right.
Not existing in the uncertainty, not just stewing in the uncertainty of, will it happen? Will it happen the way I want it to happen?
Yeah.
Because it has to happen that way, because the way that I see my future, if it doesn't happen that way, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
That's not free. That is, you're a slave then also to your future.
Right.
To having it happen in a way that will 1000% disappoint you.
Yeah.
I've never really had anything happen exactly as I wanted it to happen. Talking about any long-term thing.
Right.
That I'm working towards, or a long-term thing that I'm hoping for. It always happens in some different way.
Yeah.
Especially if it's happened already in my life in one way, it's never going to happen in that way again.
Yeah.
So, letting go of control, embracing the uncertainty, knowing that it's going to be uncertain, and that's okay.
Yes.
And then also trusting in what you're doing right now to work towards whatever it is you're moving towards, whatever it is you want in your future, whatever it is that you want in your relationships or health or connections, all of that type of stuff. Embrace the uncertainty and trust the process. Hey, I want to build connections in my life. I'm choosing connection. Cool. All right. Well, that means I need to do these things. Will it result in a best friend? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Right.
Maybe not. I don't know. And that's the uncertainty that we just have to embrace.
Right.
Will this work out? I don't know.
You're aiming for connection and hoping for the best.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you're doing the things that are the process to building friendships, or building connections.
I guess that process is part of he probably details this in the book, but that process is part of the letting go of anxiety, because that's the part that you can control, or at least that's my viewpoint of it. If you want connection, to go off of that analogy, and you're taking steps to build community and build meaningful connections, that is all you can do, right? That's all you can do, is take those steps to build the connections that you want to have. And that's the control that you have.
Yeah.
And anything else is, you just have to trust the process.
Trust the process. So, is there anything else that you would add to choosing freedom? I mean, honestly, it's kind of just a summary choice,
right?
Because a lot of these other ones are what bring you freedom,
right?
In different areas of your life: physical, mental, relational. All of these things are to bring you freedom in different areas of your life, and then you need to choose to exist in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll just add this because I've been thinking about it the past few weeks, but
please,
things have come up recently where I've been sharing with people just the fact of taking charge of your life, take charge of it. And it reminds me of this in a way, not necessarily, I wasn't talking about anxiety, but just talking about, I think we have way more freedom than we give ourselves.
Yeah.
And we allow society, or what our parents told us, or what culture tells us, or just maybe our past and finance, whatever it is, we let things like limit us. And we just think, oh, like I'm stuck, you know, when really we're not. If we just take that step back, and a lot of these things would be helpful for that, but take that step back and be like, what kind of person do I want to be? Where do I want to go? Will I get to that exact spot of, you know, what I want my life to look like in 30 years or whatever? Probably not. But I want to be this type of person.
Right.
I want to pursue this thing. Well, then do it. Like do the work, take the steps to do it. Now you might not end up there. You might end up somewhere over here. But when things happen that you're not in control of, because things will, you can still say, this is still the kind of person I want to be. And now that there's this new situation, this is the direction I want to go. And yeah, that's just come up this past month. And I think that taking charge of your life is the freedom. And it's this beautiful balance of saying, I'm not in control of these things on one hand, but I am in control of all of these. And I can be grateful in that and move forward in that. And I think that that's freeing and definitely encouraging, at least for me.
Yeah. I think just to kind of wrap this up, these are daily choices, just reminding people of that. This is something that he offers as something we can do every day to build. These are the building blocks for a whole life that is non-anxious, not when situations come up that bring me anxiety, I can do these things to mitigate that feeling of anxiety. This is what we do daily so that we don't get to it.
Right.
Or when the anxiety comes, we can have a response that is more level.
Right.
That is more thoughtful, that is more prepared.
Yeah, I think it's helpful to know that when you feel that anxiety coming on again, it doesn't have to cripple you like it maybe has in the past.
Yes.
Like once you start, like you're saying, once you start to implement these things, you can know, okay, I've dealt with this before, I can deal with it again. And yeah, if you already have these things in place, it will help negate some of those crippling feelings.
Right. So the last thing, and it kind of goes along with what you just spoke to, with we have more control over our lives than we sometimes think. And that idea can allow us to be intentional.
Yeah.
So all of these things that we've talked about, the choice even to pursue any one of these things, which any one of these things will help your life, that choice requires intentionality. It requires you making a decision to do it. I think there is a lack of intentionality in a lot of things that people do, and it causes them to be inconsistent in many ways, and it causes them to drift back into old ways quickly. And so you need to be intentional about every day, I'm going to build this thing. I'm going to build a life that's not anxious. I'm going to build the life that I desire to live, a life of peace. But you can't do it without intentionality, where that choice, that decision is made. And that's, I know it can just sound very silly. Like, of course I have to choose it if I do it. Yeah, but you don't actually make decisions a lot of times. I know so many people that are on diets that haven't chose to be healthy.
Yeah.
I've seen so many people that choose to work out that haven't decided what type of physique they're going to have. Like, they haven't actually made a decision about it. Like, I'm going to be a fit person. I'm going to be a healthy person. I'm going to be a loving person. I'm going to be a successful person. You have to actually make a decision about who or what you want in and for your life, and speak it out loud. Speak it to yourself. It needs to become something that yourself and others are aware of.
Yeah.
And a lot of us don't do that. As silly as it kind of sounds to make a decision about these things, if you don't, you won't do it.
That's true.
So yeah, be intentional. So just to review these again, choose reality. Choose to make connections with people. Call that friend that you've been meaning to call all week. I'm speaking to myself. Choose health. Choose mindfulness. Choose belief. You can't do it on your own. Hate to break it to you. I think that is, just to harp on that one more time, that is where a lot of people get stuck because you can't do it on your own. Mm-hmm. You can't free yourself of something that you are currently a slave to. You need somebody to break chains in your life. You need somebody to come in and free you from that prison that you currently exist in, and belief is the main way that you do that. And then you need to choose freedom. You need to say, I am free. I think that's something that, again, just to go to the Bible and to go to examples of this, it requires, like, there's something to belief that the current thing that is holding me down, if that's anxiety, when it releases, when you feel like you are free of it, you need to actually choose to exist in that newfound freedom, or it will creep in again and it will enslave you. Mm-hmm. Like, it has to be something, I know this from addictions. If I do not declare that I am free of this thing that I was addicted to, it's going to come back. Mm-hmm. I could set things in place to try and prevent it, but if I haven't made the decision that I am now free of it, it will come back.
Right.
So choose freedom in your life and be intentional in all of these. Anything else to add?
I think that's good.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening, watching, viewing, subscribing. Make sure that you share this with somebody. Like I said on the last podcast, this book is available on Spotify for free if you have a premium account. It's on Audible and all the other audiobook platforms, or you can buy the physical copy if you're just an overachiever. So we'll see you on the next episode. We love you all. Goodbye.